You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
It's really funny to see you finally and to have this conversation because your voice is so familiar for me from listening to all the podcasts. And I also know in my head, like, you don't know me, but I know you as if I'm talking to a good friend. So let's make this podcast something to
Epic.
get to know each other. It's like, oh, wow, here is a listener. Yes.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. But the thing is, I'm quite a friendly guy, and I just love people, and I love humanity. So it doesn't take me long to make friends. And honestly, my dad was like that. My dad, like, you left my dad. Literally, you turn your back on my dad, and my dad was making friends with people, and I love that about him. But anyway, before we start, can I show you something I'm really excited about?
Yeah, sure.
What do you think of that?
Yeah. Wow. I saw it on the... Yeah, it's
cool?
a neon light, isn't it? That's cool.
I really like my neon light.
Yes.
It's the little things in life. You know, I'm an 80s kid and it was all neon. Remember 80s was neon and synth music. And I can't be honest with you, I still love all that stuff. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I'm an 80s girl myself, yes. I think I'm just a little bit ahead of you, but not much.
Don't think so. Anyway, tell me.
No.
I can't remember. What were we going to talk about? I remember receiving a message from you thinking, I need to get in touch with this lady. She's amazing. And then we had a chat, but I've had so many chats with so many people now. I can't remember. So yeah, tell me about yourself and yeah, let's become friends.
Yes. Well, before I start talking about me, I really wanted to do a shout out to you for all the listeners and this was the beginning of the conversation for us. I was listening to a podcast that you had with Andrew Wakefield, an amazing guy, and this was the second one that you did with him. I was really impressed, by the way, by the first podcast by itself. But while you were in this podcast, you were telling how much you missed the contact with your patients that you used to have. As I was, again, listening to you while doing a lot of stuff with my hands, I made sure that when I was at home, I went behind my computer and did a message through Substack to you, saying, like, you impacted my world greatly with so many information. And it was a journey by itself, being from my side along your side, but you were not knowing this, of course, because I didn't speak out yet. But I'm absolutely impacted by all the subjects that came through to your podcasts, that came through to all the different guests that you were having on. And I feel very much well informed by all the information that you're sharing so widely, and not only just informed, but also it's like inspiring to see how you do your talks, your interviews. It's like you have a very specific way of going through all of the information, and it even, it had influence on me and my inquisitive mind to see, like, what are you doing with all these sort of questioning that you have. So in many ways you have been an inspiration. And
thank you.
I don't know if you know that it was like more than a year ago. I think it was in 2022 when I started to harass you by emails. Like, look, I wanted to become a paid member, but I don't have a credit card. So please send me your bank account stuff so I can pay you just a monthly pay. So that was what we did before. So in a way, you knew that I was out there somewhere, but I was listening through many of the topics. So in that way, I really want to thank you for sharing so much and being able to inform, and not just me. And I just feel, or I just, like I wrote to you, I feel like there's many more like me. We are listening to you, or as I am doing a lot of things, I'm doing whatever chores in the house, maybe driving my car, or like myself, I was renovating a nice space in the forest, like I told you. And while doing this, by myself. I was just listening to you and not able to constantly or to reply to you, but I had several things going on in my head wanting to tell you or just to get across. But anyway, that's for now, probably.
God bless you. Listen, thank you so much. And I really appreciate the feedback. And, I've actually been saying right from the beginning, the whole point of this podcast, it was very similar to my practice as a surgeon. I used to say to my patients, my job as a surgeon is to inform and educate you. And then with that knowledge, you will be empowered to make the right decisions. And that was what I used to always say to my patients for the last 10 years. I used to say, my job is not to tell you what to do. And that's not my job. No. My job is so that you are in a position where you can make the right decision going forward. And, I'll be there to help you and guide you. And the funny thing is, I think the podcast is the same. I'm learning, and I'm just sharing my learning journey. And I wanted to inform you as well, all of you listening, because I just feel like the news and the mainstream media doesn't really tell us what's going on. And isn't it amazing how many different guests there are? Like, where are these guests coming from?
I don't know. You tell me. No, but that's too. That's true. It's like I was amazed to feel so in synchronicity with all the information through the various guests. And it was very often that I felt myself or find myself questioning things. And while I was just dealing with these questions in my head and trying to figure out what the hell was going on, I found a new podcast and I started listening. And then it was just like as if it was meant to happen or whatever. So it was giving me the right information at times that I was just dealing with questions myself. Yeah. And it was from pets and what we do with our pets till what we do with our toothpaste, or the guy with the billboard and also a reality check with yourself. It's like, there's so many subjects and there's, I know, but it also shows you as a person. It's like you were dealing with a conversation and the way you handled that, it was amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Just in case people don't know, it's the podcast with Billboard Chris. And you can just fast forward to the last 10 minutes and get out your popcorn and just, there's a meme, I don't know if people have seen the memes where they're like, if they're just watching the show, it's like, crack open the wine, crack open the beers and the popcorn.
Absolutely. But it is also a good check for ourselves to see, it's like there's so many subjects and there's so much going on. And even though we sometimes feel very much in line or awake about things, there is another one popping up and there's another one popping up. And I think that team humanity, as you are telling always, it's time that we feel not more in line with the playbook that's played out again and again and again, because that is dividing us. It's not uniting us. And that is, the question is, and that is a very nice topic. And before we go into that, I might want to tell you a little bit more about myself. But the topic would be, is like, isn't it interesting what happens right now that keeps us from this spiritual journey? And what happens if we do unite? And if we get more in line with ourselves, with our own energy, what great things are waiting for us around the corner then? So that was something that I really would like to dive in with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe if I may, I'm a trained physician, as in a body worker, rebalancing, which is something that I found later on in my life because I was doing a complete different stuff. And in the middle of my 40s somewhere, I was forced just to take a look at life, meaning like I was doing a lot of stuff in line with what I was supposed to do, in line with my education, in line with what was basically programmed from my upbringing, which was something like make sure you can financially take care of yourself, be an independent. In many ways I was, but I was always feeling a little bit untouched or not really doing what was fulfilling for me. So I was doing a lot of stuff and which made me feel horrible or even make me feel sick, physically sick, because I was in a surrounding with energy which was affecting me. And I had no idea. And I also had no idea how to handle that. So basically I was in my 40s and feeling again like, okay, I need to choose whatever it is or find whatever it is that is bringing me to this point of living my fullest life or living the best version of whatever is supposed to be for me. And it took me some time to really come to that point, meaning that I was forced out from my job. I was working in Amsterdam on innovations and sustainability for a social housing company. And I was finding myself standing on this crossroad and thinking, okay, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? So basically what I did was I gave myself like a 4-month period of time to let it all sink in, and promised myself to look after 4 months, look again if the passion, which I felt at the time for innovations and sustainability, if that passion was still there for me. So then I knew, okay, this is my spark, and let's follow the spark. And it only took me like 3 months' time that I completely felt not in line with that anymore. It's like I felt like, no, whatever. Which was kind of surprising to me at the time because I was really onto it. But I think my soul really had a clearer vision for myself. It's like, no, this is not your topic. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. So that was the first step for me. It's like Lego, and which was kind of scary because I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have a point on my horizon. I just knew, okay, this is not for me. The one thing that I was doing at the time was trainings, because I started following trainings to become more acquainted with my own energy. It's like I'm a really sensitive person, always been, and I found it as a handicap in many things in life. I find it like it's not handy to feel everything around you, to have like a sense of what is going on. So what do I do with that? And during the training, I also felt like it's me who added the label that it's my handicap. So what if I change my perspective or my vision on that? And what if I just, from my head or from my mind, put it in as a tool, which I have to develop for myself in order to have more abilities with that or work with that. So I was training my energy field, and then I applied with the same school for the reading and the healing classes. And it was during the reading classes that I find myself like the information that we're bringing, reading a person's energy, it was like a true gift, but it was here. So you could see the energy was going around, but to get it down into the system, I felt I need to go a step further. I need to do something with the body. And I don't know why, but I felt it like, okay, if there is an experience with the body, then it's like revealing the truth. It's no question about it. Once you feel it, you know it. So I found myself going around, and within a couple of weeks, it was synchronicity again working its way into my life. I found someone talking about rebalancing. So I investigated that. I went to the website, and everything inside me was like, yes. I was immediately, but my head had some time or needed some time to come fully on board with the idea. It was quite a journey to go there. It was in the north of Holland, and it was quite a price. So I was not immediately like, yes, going on. Eventually, I was doing my research on it. I just go back and forth with the idea. I did a moment of...
Can I just stop?
Yeah, sure.
When you say rebalancing, what do you mean? Rebalancing your energy?
Rebalancing is body work. That is what I'm doing today. So it basically is like a body therapist working with the energy, but it's also bringing a person more in line with their own connect again with the body. Rebalancing meaning to get more alignment in yourself and to feel everything which is inside of you. And there's so much that we forgot that is there because, well, the body is basically like a container, getting everything inside, whatever is happening during the course of your life. Everything is remembered. I think there's a Dutch person who wrote the book The Body Keeps Score. I don't know if you know that.
No.
No. So while we tend to forget a lot with our head, the body always remembers. So whenever there's something revealing and there is something going on with the body, most of the times it is connected to some blockage of energy or blockage of a memory which has been held inside the body for a longer time. And it's not it is like things that progress through time that you tend to forget or just ignore and keep it outside, that will come back to you. So you have like this thing going on in tissue or in an organ which is eventually started a long time ago. So something might have happened, hurt, and you just press it. Tissue is just, and with rebalancing, what we do is sort of bring awareness to whatever issue or tissue is holding on to stresses. And by bringing awareness through breath work, with engaging the awareness of yourself to that particular area, you eventually go to a point where the tissue releases the tension, and then you become more whole. It's like, okay, tension releases, energy flow of blood will easily go through. There's more movement, there's more alignment in body parts, and then you become more whole as a person, I would say.
Is this similar to like New German medicine?
I wish. No, I think it's different. I'm familiar with New German medicine. I do feel there's the similarity between rebalancing and New German medicine, I would say, is like it's more looking at the natural pathway or the natural way of how the body would heal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because then I would ask you, is like what kind of parts of new medicine are you referring to?
You know, like the fact that like there's trauma and there's other issues that cause disease and illness. It's not the conventional what we think causes problems in the body.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, a few years ago, if you talked about this stuff with me, I would have been like, this is just all crazy woo-woo stuff. Now, I'm like, we are energy beings and we don't actually understand anything.
Yeah.
And who knows, you know, the Chinese medicine is a similar thing. They talk about blockages, they talk about the liver, they talk about the different things, and they want to realign the energy fields, the chi or whatever it is that they talk about. So everyone's coming at it from the same angle, and they keep talking about it. And now, you know, you're talking about the energy and the blockage. There must be something to this. And, you know, I wish people did more research into it to understand it. So, but when you're doing this rebalancing work, like what kind of stuff are you able to treat? Is it musculoskeletal? Is it chronic disease? Is it mental illness? I mean, what kind of stuff are you able to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it's more like chronicle stuff, which has its origin way back in time. So for acute things, I would refer everyone to go to a normal doctor or to a foot and ankle surgeon. But no, if a person has like a burnout or suffering from stress and fatigue, those are things that bring you to a disbalance or a dis-ease. So I think that is the sort of clients that I receive that will come to you. They have typical not knowing exactly why things are happening, feeling a bit out of line or feeling sometimes depressed or feeling without energy. So then it starts with the question, what is happening in your system as a whole? So it's a more holistic way of looking at the body.
Yeah. The thing is, a lot of these people have sometimes an underlying, you know, biochemical marker, you know, problem. For example, they might have deficiency in vitamin D, or they might be anemic, or God knows what. But the question is, did the imbalance and the blockages come first, and then you see the problems in their markers, or did the markers were they you know at fault too? I mean, I always feel like things are, you know, they're just so complicated. Like, how do you attack? What's the vector? I mean, there's, you know, they could be vitamin D deficient. They could just literally have a poor diet and have gut dysbiosis. they could have a mental health problem, but then what's causing the mental health problem? I had someone talking about depression just a few days ago. I mean, I don't think it's as simple as, oh, your dopamine and serotonin are all wrong. It's always multifactorial. And my guest the other day was telling me that depression, he thinks it's basically unresolved trauma. And the unresolved trauma creates, the biochemical imbalances. And actually the treatment is treating that and underlying trauma that they've had in their life.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It's like there's multiple angles to look at something. And I would always advise a person with depression not just to go to a rebalancer, but also look at the diet or whatever is in the intestines areas. Like the microbiome is also a very big influence on how you feel. And this was something that I really liked about, you were telling about you as a former doctor. You were always asking about how is your eating, how is your diet, or your sleeping. And there's so many factors going around influencing the body. So I think there should be a multiple angle for everything.
Exactly. Anyway, carry on.
Where was I?
You're talking about how you're treating the blockages and everything.
Yes. Well, for example, if I'm working with a client and once on the table, I can see like we're coming into a stage of relaxation and opening up to how do you say? It's like they are getting more in a stage of
relaxation.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's a different word that I'm looking for. Anyway, it's like entering a field of more of trust, and it's where the body starts to come up with their own wisdom. So it's beautiful to see how once you're in that stage, everything will come up in a way. It's like I'm in contact with the client, talking about what is feeling, what is going on, and we're going into different areas and bringing awareness to and touching.
Can you give an example of the body revealing things and giving awareness? Like, what would that look like?
Yes, well, you start with a conversation first. So you have like this moment of what are you feeling? And it's like a meditative thing. So I ask a client to close their eyes to see if it's slowly going inside of the body with their breath, sometimes going in and feeling sensations and just exploring like, okay, what is it that you're feeling in a certain area? So it's mapping out already to start with. It's like, what is going on? Obviously, there's been an intake about the things that they're dealing with or what the broader perspective. So then we start to investigate and to see whatever the body is telling in first sight. So that might be a knee, or it might be an ankle, or it might be the belly, or whatever area. And exploring that a little bit while talking with a client, it gets a more clear vision. And sometimes it's really like everybody has a different story. So sometimes it's right away into an area, and sometimes it's like the body tries to trick you. It's like, I've got a pain in my shoulder, but my ankle's also hurting, and it's like going everywhere. So you have to unpack a little bit before we start. And then I start to touch, and it's like first get this field of opening up, and then it's like slowly coming and getting a person into, let's say a shoulder pain. And then I'm starting to work on the shoulder, and you can feel that with coming into the area, it's like holding, for example, a shoulder between my hands, and I can feel if someone is from the inside is also there or not. So I can sense, it's like, okay, there's nothing, there's not a lot of life, I would say in English. So I'm inviting this person to come into this space and to just be there. And then once, for example, the person is there, then it's getting in contact with pain or a lot of grief, and not always knowing why there's so much grief. And then all of a sudden in this story it becomes like, oh, I remember as a child that I had to bury, or I had to carry, this or that, and that was going on. So it's like traveling back in time with the client while being in a certain area, feeling. And then once it's the pain or the trauma is touched, is not the way. It's like it needs to be seen. It needs to have like permission or something. So once it's like there and it is allowed, like, okay, yes, this is what has been going on for me since at the age of 4, and now I know. And then the healing starts. Then it's like, okay, so we know what is going on for you, and it's been the shoulder where it's been holding on for you. And then you can have different techniques in stretchings or with soft tissue moving, sometimes very deep, going, like really into the soft areas, or just going underneath it, and then continue to ask and to come with breath work. And then you can feel, or I can sense under my hands or my fingers that the tissue is from holding on, is like relaxing. And then it's like one of the beautiful things I feel is that the body also remembers, like it's cell memory, what is possible in movement or possible in everything. So once it's remembered again, it's like, oh yeah, I can move this, or I can make all these. Then the body starts healing itself because there's an opening. And then this is the magic of the body, the wisdom of the body that is working by itself. So basically I'm a tour guide on, going through the whole body. So that's what we're doing.
I love it. The reality is most people don't actually have any time in their lives. Days, months go by, years go by, where they don't even sit and just feel the moment, their presence. They're constantly being stimulated, being bombarded by, a stimulus. And I think this is also where it comes back to meditation, why things like meditation are important, or prayer. Prayer is a form of meditation where you stop thinking about things. You stop thinking about the world around you. You stop thinking about all the problems that you have and your job and your work and your family. And you just feel the moment. And
Absolutely.
And if you're this kind of treatment, you're allowing that person to enter into that meditative state where they can start sensing their body. I used to have patients and I would say to them, where's your pain? And they'd be like, oh, I don't know. And they would struggle to even describe where the pain is, never mind what the pain was like and when the pain came on. Just even asking, where's the pain? They were like really, really struggling. I'd be like, just take a moment, relax. And it was so hard for them even to just do that simple thing. So I think a lot of people lose that self-awareness. And you're right, the body is an incredible machine, is self-healing in so many ways. And the reality is so much is done on a subconscious level. We're not aware of it. And there's a reason for that. Can you imagine if we knew about every single thing that was going on inside our body, the food that's traveling down our intestines, every ache and pain that we can feel, or, your heart pumping in your body, you're reminding yourself, I need to pump my heart. The next beat has to happen. We would be overwhelmed by all this information. Take that next breath. Okay, now again, it's just too much information. So a lot of the stuff is being done automatically, so much without our awareness. And I think what you're saying is try and tap into that subconscious, or even just have a glimmer of it, can help you. I don't know.
Yeah, well, what I wanted to say is like there's a reason why a lot of things, or I feel that there's a reason why a lot of things that go on in the body, like pumping your heart, is not something that we necessarily feel. But it's nice if we feel like something is out of alignment. So it's basically you have these automatic processes going on, which is perfect. Let's do that. But on top of that, I think there is an extra. So being in the moment and being in touch with your body, And this is something that I experienced myself, that I was not in contact with myself for a long time, which made me like going around in many ways not knowing what was right for me. So in order to be in contact with your intuition, which tells you to go right, left, or whatever, to choose or help you navigate through life, you need to be in contact. So yes, I think that for a lot of people, it would help if they sometimes be more aware of what they're doing, what they're saying, even the words that we use.
100%. I think I was using the wrong example. I think the example is, for example, when you're driving a car, and most of the time you're not aware of what's going on underneath the engine. Like, you're just driving, and it's a good thing. You don't need to see what's going on under the engine. But when you have a problem or an injury, then the indicator lights come on the dashboard. The oil is low or the engine is overheating. And the thing is, if you're too busy distracted by loud pumping music, talking to the kids in the car, or arguing about the road rage and shouting at the drivers, or rushing to work because you're late, you don't see the indicator lights. You ignore the indicator lights. And I think, it's important to just stop the car, turn off the music, and just look around you and be aware. And if there are indicator lights, go, right, there's an indicator light on. Where's that indicator light? What's going on? Tapping into your body and knowing. I mean, I'll give an example. Recently, in the last few months, I've stopped taking all my vitamins and supplements. I kind of think I know when I need something. Like, last night I was like, I need to take some magnesium, and I took magnesium. Now, I don't know why, but I just felt like I need to take some magnesium.
That's how it works for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I just listen to my
Absolutely.
body now. And I think, I can't explain it. I don't know how to explain it, but you kind of know, like, when you want something and when you don't. Like, I know when I want certain foods or when I want to have fruit. It's just, I don't know. I don't know, but am I just more self-aware? It's just something that's happened over the last few years. I kind of listen to my body now and go, what do I want? What do I feel like? And I realize it's not just random. It is my body telling me. So, yeah, I think I get what you're saying. It's about tapping into
Good for
your
you.
body. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is a nice example that you gave. It's like the red light or the indicator light on the dashboard tells you need to have more alignment, or you have to have more attention for whatever is going on in the body. Absolutely. Good example. And it works for me the same. It's like I have a base of vitamins or minerals, and sometimes I feel like I need to have some extra, but it's not on a daily basis. And it is whenever I feel like, I think I need some extra. I feel a little bit, So let's bring in some vitamin D, because we didn't have a lot of sunshine, for example, and I feel like going down. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. There was blue sky just an hour ago, and then I saw the chemtrails, and now it's just grey.
Yeah. It's terrible. It's also a way of...
Can I just quickly ask you something else? Because we've only got a little bit of time left. I really want to ask you. You're in the Netherlands, right? Recently, you had a football team arrive in the Amsterdam or whatever, and there were riots. Now, I read that this was the example of the fact that the local population is struggling with the immigrants. There's a lot of tension between people from the Netherlands, the Dutch, and these immigrants. And when these footballers came along, it just exposed the problems in Dutch society today. Is that a true reflection of what happened? Are there problems with immigrants in the Netherlands? What's happening there?
Other problems like... So, well, I think that there's more information coming out right now.
Are these immigrants, criminals and causing tension in Dutch society? Is there a lot of crime? Is there a lot of problem with, women? Or are they fairly well integrated? And actually, these footballers that came, they were the ones inciting the hatred. I'm trying to figure out which is the correct version, because on one side, you've got conservatives saying this Israeli team were innocent, and these immigrants that are mostly Muslim are Jew hating, and they already don't fit into society, and it's a clash of civilization. On the other side, it's no, these immigrants are well integrated, they're law abiding, they're working, getting on with their job, and actually these Israelis, who many of them are in the army on leave, incited the violence in the first place. I mean, there's two very different stories here. Do we know what actually happened?
From my perspective or my opinion, I think this was again a psyop to have again the same playbook of divide and conquer. Talking about the information, what was set up from an Israeli government guy, talking to some political figures in Holland before it even happened. So basically, again, it is a psyop to get a riot, to get something explosive going on, and then have everyone then saying like, yeah, there's so much going on. See, we need more restrictions. We need more rules. We need more cameras or whatever. So I think that was one layer. Basically, your question is like, is it really that these people are causing problems in our society? Well, this is a very interesting topic, but it's like we can go in a whole different story. I think that the community which was the community that responded is not basically an average immigrant. It's like second generation or first generation from some of the groups in Amsterdam. Are they causing a problem? Well, I lived for 26 years in Amsterdam West, and I was surrounded with a lot of them, and some of them are full of hate, which in a way I understand it, but I'm not really. Well, I understand where it's coming from, and it is also something like, okay, please, it's not necessary. It's like, again, something to keep us in different groups and not being able to have this feeling of unity and team humanity. So I feel this has been going on for a long time, and the extra flow of immigrants going into Europe, and especially I think Holland had or was one of the countries within Europe that had the most or the best circumstances for people to come and to get everyone, the first wife, the second wife, the cousins, the aunts, everyone was allowed to come. So I think that is becoming very clearly right now in practical things. And some people say there's no problem, but I think, well, we have a housing problem. We have a crisis in healthcare, which is also
exactly. So basically, what you're saying is very complicated and it's nuanced. But like, say you went back 15 years ago, before this massive wave of migration, was the Netherlands okay? I mean, 20 years ago, you had some immigrants. Were they integrating? Were they getting on well? Was there cohesion in society?
Yeah, I think I can relate to your story, as in what your mom, I think it was a year ago or something that I heard your mother say something about like, we were coming as immigrants and we were just going whatever we needed to do to build up a life. And for now, it seems as if the immigrants that come in, they just expect to have a car. They expect to have whatever they think is like, I have a list here, can you just provide? And it's like, and if a journalist is in contact with the immigrants and tell them it's like, this is not something that every Dutch citizen gets, they're like, no way, I don't believe it. It's like, yeah, we have to work for a lot of stuff. And so it's a different pack of rules, and it used to be different. I started living in Amsterdam in 1991, and the whole city was amazing. I left in 2018. I left the city, and it was a different DNA. It was the soul from the old Amsterdam is gone. It's not there anymore, for me at least. It's like, no.
What changed?
Yeah, that's a good one. what I see or what I saw is there is a tension that's going on, and it's still. So it slowly entered the city in a way which I cannot define myself. I think it's also, again, multi-layered, because in the 90s, when I started living there, I had to bike around on a lot of stuff to go around in the city. You have to go to a shop rather than, doing an internet buy. It was more quiet. It was more easy. It was a lot of bikes, but still today there's so many bikes that I had it in the morning bringing my kid to school that someone who was just rushing by hit the bike of a child. So the child just fell over, and it was like 30 people just almost with their bikes behind it going over the kid. And the person who just hit the kid just full on. It's like, don't you see what you're doing? You're not feeling some compassion to stop because you almost ran over a child? And it's like, why? Why the hurry? Why the rush? What is going on? So, good question. But if I had the answer, if I truly had the answer, I could probably do something about it. But I don't feel I can do anything.
Do you think it's because there's too many people? There's too many people who've migrated over, and that there's not like the resources and the infrastructure can't cope with it?
Yeah, I do feel that it has to do with the density of a lot of humans. I heard, for example, it was a couple of years ago when the war in Ukraine started. There was a journalist on the area right there, and he just said to someone here in Holland who broadcasted the podcast as well. It's like, I've never ever seen during a wartime, and this was a journalist that was doing a lot of war times previous to that. So for 20 years or 30 years, he was around. And he said, I've never ever seen such an organization that was supporting people to hop on buses and to leave. It's almost as if they're being
Bussed over.
as if they're bussed over, and that's basically what it is. Because there's many ways to look at many things, and it's difficult to say it's like they're not welcome. But is this the only option there really is? That's my question. It's like, is it really necessary?
So the problem that I have right now is I feel we're only being offered two viewpoints, and one view is open borders, and we should invite everyone here, and we should be tolerable and charitable, and all the people who want to come over from the rest of the world, we should bring them over, and it's our duty to house them and to let them in. It doesn't matter. That makes us better Europeans. And many of the EU officials and the leaders are following this narrative, and it's also something that George Soros promotes, and the Open Border Foundation, or whatever it is. All these NGOs and these big billionaire philanthropists, and they want mass migration, and it's clearly an agenda, and they want that, right? So that's one side, and then on the other side, you've got people like this guy. Hold on 1 second. This guy here, Geert Wilders, we need to save our nations, our cultural identity based on Judeo-Christian values. We need to fight back. Yep. All that, not unreasonable at all. But the problem is on this side, on the other side of the argument is that, it's these bloody immigrants, these bloody Muslims. We need to stop them coming in here, and they're subhuman. They're not as civilized as us. They're stupid. They're this, they're that, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost kind of racist.
Well,
right? We're better than them. You got one extreme or the other. So what I'm saying is that why does it have to be one or the other? The way I look at it is, it's not right to bring all these people over. Every country has had immigration, but little waves of immigration, right? And the immigration, the people who come are hardworking and contribute to society and become part of the tapestry of that nation. What they don't do is overwhelm the host nation and replace the culture. That's an invasion. Okay, that's simple as that. And we don't want an invasion. And the natural migration of hardworking people, and a small amount trickling and becoming part of the society and culture and integrating truly, that we don't have that anymore. What we have is literally an invasion and overwhelming the local infrastructure, the local country, the local population, the local housing, and that is creating tension in the countries. But I'm not angry specifically at the individuals, although they need to take personal responsibility. I'm saying this is being manufactured. And the people on this side who are just saying, oh, it's Judeo-Christian values and these stupid Muslims, what they don't talk about is, well, what about the wars that we're fighting? What about the fact we're bombing these countries? What about the fact that our politicians and our NGOs and our billionaires are paying these people to come over here? What's that all about? Why are they doing that? What's the agenda there? And I think the agenda is very simple, is to destroy the nation state and to create a homogenous blob where the citizens don't have any love of their country. Because when you do that, then you can usher in a one world government. It's easier to have a European national state when everyone is just the same. If you have a strong French identity, a strong Dutch identity, a strong Italian identity, they're more likely to resist that unified blob. And I think that's the agenda. That's what I think, Deb.
Yes, I agree. And I think that the community of the farmers showed how hard it was. They've been putting up a real tough fight, and they've been really hard for the government to throw them over. And still, it's an ongoing process. It's not stopped. As in, I think it was in England as well. It's like the family farmers are still under attack. And what I truly miss in the whole thing, and which I feel that was more common in the 90s, it was like a debate. It's like we have, for example, a specialist here who is having years of experience based on what integration means or what big troops of immigrants do to a country. And it's like you said, if it's like in small groups and if the distance between one community and the other is not too far, it's more easy to blend in. And it shouldn't be like an invasion, but this whole guy is kept out of the debate. He's not having any stage or not any space to have his knowledge to bring it over to the government. I don't know his name. I can provide it later if you want to, but this is like a copy paste story. It's every time when we see a dominant narrative, it is the specialists who have the other half of the story are kept out of it. So we are not fully informed. We as a society do not have the full picture. We just get one size fits all.
Yeah. So it's either what we're being offered is it's anyone questioning migration is a Nazi and racist and, is a horrible person. So we need to allow migration and it's great. Or the other side is mass migration is, a terrible because these Muslims are, barbaric and evil and they're, we need to stop them and our way of life is being threatened, which is partly true, in the sense that it is overwhelming their local cultures and communities and their way of life. But that all Muslims are not barbaric. The problem is not Islam or Muslims. Well, I have problems with Islam. The problem is who's bringing these people over? Why in the last 10, 15 years has this happened? It is engineered. There is a plan.
Absolutely.
And we need to be thinking about who is behind this plan. Who is this hidden hand that's organizing and arranging this? And I'll give an example. When I went to school in a school trip to Germany in the 90s, we went to places like Bielefeld and Frankfurt and, Dortmund. And, these German towns were beautiful. They're quiet. They had open plazas and people were out having coffee and eating, and it was clean. It was not overwhelming. It was, it was nice. And then I remember the first time I went to Paris, which was about 28 years ago. It was again quiet, busy, bustling, but clean, open spaces, hardly any beggars. It was lovely. Now, in the last 10 years, when I've been to places like Munich and Paris and Barcelona, they're all the same now. They're overwhelmed by people from all over the world. There's smell of urine everywhere. There's dirt and filth everywhere. And it's just different. They don't feel like those European cities that I went to, almost 30 years ago. It's very much changed. And I think I don't think that's right. That's not right. Something's happened. And this mass migration is a problem, I think. It's eroding the individual identities of the cities and the provinces and the countries of Europe. It is creating tension amongst communities, but it's being deliberately engineered. And we will never fix the problem unless we identify who and why. And that is the conversation that no one's having. And also, we need to stop bombing these other countries. We need to stop destabilizing these other countries. But it's not even countries that we've bombed. There's other countries that have got nothing's happened, but they're coming over. Gaddafi once talked about this. He said, look, if you destroy Libya, you will have a migration problem. He goes, right now, we're the richest country in Africa. Everyone coming from sub-Saharan Africa stops at Libya because we have all the jobs, we've got money, and, everything's fine. But the moment we bombed Libya back to the medieval ages, we've had child trafficking, human trafficking, and we've had this mass migration across the Mediterranean. But you know what? The EU and the NGOs, they love it. And I just think, what the hell is going on here? It's madness.
Well, I think it starts with being well informed, or better informed, at least better than we are today. I remember back in the days that everyone was celebrating and cheering because they, whoever they are, have managed to have all the assets or the money from Gaddafi. We have it frozen, or whatever that means. And I remember back in those days, it's like, yeah, because I was still thinking of him as the bad guy. But I remember, like, this time we are the ones supporting that, or the idea that the West was doing this. But what if it turns around? What if it's the other one who's doing this to us? Would everybody be so cheering and full of whatever, So I was always thinking about the bigger picture. And in the beginning, I remember, like, this doesn't make sense. So we have these boats coming from Africa with air boats, or how do you say, the floatables,
the dinghies,
not too great. And what do? We pick them up in front of the coast of whatever African country. They're just a couple of kilometers away, and we drag them all the way to Italy. Why? What sense does that make?
Right. And it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And it is like, I think it's not just with immigration. It's, again, with the climate hopes. It's like, there's so many topics, and what it does to us is that it keeps us and our mind going there instead of focusing on ourselves. So it is constantly a fight for you, for me, to have a bombardment of information, which brings us to bring up a lot of thoughts. And this is something that I was thinking of asking you yourself. Is like, we have to balance between the more spiritual way of life, in which we know, like, everything you bring your attention to, it grows. It will expand because of the attention and the energy that we give it ourselves. And although I agree, it's like, there's a lot going on, but to remain really in a clear head, or have yourself be fully aligned with your own energy, and therefore having to tap into the possibilities that we have as a human to manifest our own world, we need to withdraw, at least on occasion, withdraw the energy. Stop giving everything our attention, because we are fueling it with everything we have. This is a balance for me, myself. It's like, there's many things going on. Some other stuff I want to share with you before we end. But looking from a spiritual perspective, we are the ones who are fueling the conscious field with our thoughts. So what is consciousness? It's a field which is filled with everything we think, everything we say and do, even the words that we use, they have a certain energy. It's like, if I can put this in an example, in Dutch, if you have a swear word and call on like God, it literally translates into something like, God, make me more stupid. God verdom mij. So please, God, make me more stupid. And a lot of people say this and use this without even thinking of it. But in a way, you want to ask to make you smarter. It's like, please, God, make me smarter instead of make me dumber. So start really using the correct words and know that everything we give our attention to is fueling it. So if we start putting out, and this is like I say, it starts with being better informed, knowing that the discussion is far wider than we get today, because on the I think it's the old news, it's providing us with an old image, and a lot of people are not informed about all the agendas that are going on. It's not just on migration, it's on everything. There is an agenda which is slowly maneuvering us, because, for example, once the riots here in Amsterdam are going on and every attention is going there and every one of the politics is having wide discussions, nobody in Holland is available for the European Union, where they are now discussing all the rules that bring us closer to the CBDC. So it's a game, and we are trapped in this game to have our attention to there, so we cannot look there. It's like, stop it. It's a game, and it's a playbook, and it should be known by now. It's like, okay, there we go again. Try to divide us, try to have fake information to all of us, or fake or disinformation, whatever you name it. But try to zoom out and try to be more knowing that everything we do is helping to create and manifest this world. So if we have a choice, wouldn't we rather bring our energy to things that we would like to be? This world, how would it look like? So ask your child not what do you want to become, but who do you want to become? It's like there's so many ways of dealing with energy, and it starts with the awareness.
Debbie, you're an hour. Now, the thing is, I try and get 2 or 3 supporter stories in the one episode. We're an hour now. You might have to come back again. You might have to come back for another chat, because otherwise, this is going to go on for too long. I'm so sorry, but I think you should come back. I think we need to do a part 2. I mean, what I wanted to quickly say to you is, I think you're right about the playbook. I think the thing is, the way I look at it is, everything happens deliberately. Everything we see on the TV has been planned and orchestrated. Nothing is by chance or spontaneous.
No.
If the media is putting its lens on it, you can guarantee it's been manufactured. And then that's it. That's the way you come to everything as a default position, that whatever we're seeing on the TV has been manufactured. So then the next question is, and this is the most important one, not is this manufactured? No, it is manufactured. The question is, what are they hoping to achieve with this manufactured problem that we're seeing on TV? Are they trying to manipulate our perceptions? Yeah. And how do we react? Are they trying to, so are we being distracted? Are we being misled? Are we being fueled into hatred and division? What is the agenda with this manufactured crisis? I think that's what we should be asking the question. And like you said, don't give our energy. Just look at it like an observer and go, interesting. Latest playbook. And just analyze it with a dispassionate, objective lens, knowing that they want to manipulate you. Don't let them manipulate you. Don't let them take your energy and drain you that way, because they're draining it in so many ways.
At least ask yourself the question, is this a way to manipulate my thoughts? Or is it not? And I have a suggestion, what I started to do for everyone who feels like, what can I do about this? Because this is something that you hear a lot from people. And I started, if I have to pay money to my tax agency, or if I have to pay a fine, there's an extra box where you can put in some words. It's not much, but at least you can just express your feelings. And what I started to do, and I would engage a lot of more, or I would support more people to do this around the world, is if you have an extra text box, just ask for the things that you want specifically, because the universe doesn't know the word no. So always ask for the things that you do want. Like you've said recently, I'm pro. I'm not against, but I'm pro. So whatever it is that you're pro peace, pro team humanity, stop funding the war, not the real one, but to express all humans around the world, because we all pay tax to support the whole system, but you can express what it is that you want. Team humanity wants peace. And if everyone around the world starts doing that, they have like this massive administration. Team humanity wants peace. Team humanity wants peace. Everyone can do that. How nice would that be?
That would be great. Oh man, one day it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, Deb, last question of the day, if you don't mind. Last question of the day. You know what it is? Do you know what the question is? Tell me the question.
Yeah. So what would I do, or what would I say on my deathbed when I was 150 years old? Yeah, I thought about that. Of course, I thought about that too. And I do hope that by the time I do cross over, that I've been in conversations with my dearest deeply enough so that I have no serious things to add, that they know what I'm thinking, or what my best wishes for them were. So I guess I would say see you from the other side, and just remember the signs that we spoke about, because I do believe that we just pass over. It's not an ending. This is also a nice topic, because when we stop fearing death, I think there's a whole different story there. But I would think of, we're in contact.
I want you to expand the death thing afterwards. I do want you to talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So we'll see from the other side. Just look at the signs, whatever it was that you agreed on. And I guess that, and a last one would also be like, remember, when the time comes for you to cross over, and when you feel that you are cold, or that you are obliged to follow the light or a voice or whatever, that is the moment when you can choose to turn around. And if you can see the whole universe, then it's only up to you to say, I want to go home.
Very nice. I love it. I just want to quickly show you something. This is how far behind I am. These are the other supporter stories that I've done. I've got one from September the 20th that's still waiting to be published. And then this one, October 15th, November 11th. And then this one. And now you're this one. I need to publish all these. I'm so behind. So I might do. Okay. Yeah, I might do these three together. That's 38 minutes, 31, 53. And then you two will be in this one. I'm just so behind. God. My scheduling is just awful. I need a scheduler.
Well, it is abundance. In a way, it's abundance.
It is abundance. There's so much. It's funny. People used to say to me, "Oh, you don't want to do too many podcasts. You'll run out of guests." Oh my goodness. How wrong were they? You know? Des, listen, can I ask you a favor? I feel like you've got more things to say. So can we bring you back next year at some point?
Just call in. I will. You have my number.
Yeah, but I'm right. You've got more things to say, haven't you?
If it comes to good questions, I will. I don't know. It's just me.
Well, listen, you're amazing, and thank you for your insight, and especially the stuff about the balancing work. I get that. I really get that. I think it really talking about things, reflecting, meditating, and I'm not quite there where I can sense energy and where there's a problem and blockages, but I can definitely sense energy of people. One of the reasons why I like having podcasts in person and meeting people in person is I honestly can tell, I can feel the energy of these people, whether it's a warm energy, a kind energy, or, not a nice energy, something dark there. And I feel like not enough people tap into that, that awareness. Anyway, thank you so much. Hi, beautiful people. Guys, I just want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine this. rolling green hills and open, beautiful countryside instead of ugly 5G towers. Deep, soul-nourishing conversations instead of empty small talk. People who get you, who think you're interesting and thoughtful and funny, not some crazy conspiracy theorist. Meals that are made with love, nourishing, organic, and actually delicious instead of the usual processed, convenient garbage. Real connection, real laughter, real healing. New lifelong friends. And maybe for the very first time in a long time, the feeling of truly belonging to something. And yeah, instead of arguing with someone who listens to Jeremy Vine, you're going to be chilling with me, Doc Malik. No offense to Jeremy. Well, kind of, sort of. Look, folks, I'm not talking about a yoga class in a hotel basement or a Liberal Democrat conference. This is the Doc Malik summer retreat I'm talking about. So if your soul is whispering to you right now that I need this, then you know what? Do what I always say, which is trust your gut instinct and book your place. And you won't regret it. I promise you. Love, Doc Malik. If you would like to read more about the retreat and where to book, go to docmalik.com/retreats, RETREATS / and you can see details of the summer retreat on the website and book there. Thank you so much, folks. Back to the podcast. So what happened was there's this queue of traffic, and outside the school there's lots of potholes. And these guys came out of this Balfour Beatty pickup truck type thing, opened up a bag, put what looked like tarmac into this pothole. There was no traffic signs, nothing. They just stood in the middle of the road, stopped the traffic, and then thumped the tarmac into the pothole. Didn't even fill it properly, didn't make it even, and then just
stop people driving on it.
No, and then just walked off. And
I
that's
bet
how
they charged the taxpayer a fortune for that.
Yeah, and then and then I was like, I was just speaking to one of my roofers as I was walking in, and I was like, is this normal to fill the potholes like that? They went, yeah, this is how they do it now, just on the cheap. It's just to fill it in. It'll last maybe a month or two, and that's it. Like they don't rip out the road, square it off.
Yeah.
It's just a bag, literally a little bag, ripped it open, thumpy, still lumpy, still hasn't filled out the hole properly. And I'm like, what has happened to this country? Like, seriously.
It's degenerate. But I mean, that's a reflection of a cross-section of everything, really, isn't it?
Mate, if I had seen something like that in Pakistan 20, 30 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, that's Pakistan. Not this country.
Yeah.
We're like third world. Seriously. It's just so bad.
Can you imagine if you or I, if we were running our own business, use that strategy, essentially, use that sort of quick and dirty, patch it up, we'd be out of business before you know it.
Yeah.
Because they're probably on some sort of government contracts, they're just get away with it. At the end of the day, it's not their fault. They've been told to just go along and patch it up, and they're just following orders, essentially.
Absolutely. I mean, but this falls onto this conversation that we were having yesterday.
Yeah.
That, you've got two types of people working in this country. Those that work for the government and get a paycheck regardless of how good or incompetent or whatever they are. And the other group of people who are working for themselves, entrepreneurs, self-employed, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and their business only is successful depending on how good a job they do. Because look, I used to say this as a private surgeon, a wholly private surgeon, I have to care and do a better job with my patients than an NHS doctor. And people will be like, oh, but you're just this money grabbing private doctor. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I'm only as good as my last patient. If I mess up, they're all going to go around to their local golf club, their local, women's club. They can say, oh, Dr. Malik did this to my bunion. He messed up my feet. He messed up my Achilles tendon. And I get a bad reputation, and people will avoid me, and I will not have any patients come to see me. Yeah. But if I treat every patient like my family, take care of them, phone them, check up on them, contactable. I'll build a reputation that this guy's amazing and he's the man you need to go and see.
Yeah.
And whereas an NHS doctor, guess what? Patients are going to come to see them regardless. They don't even know that they're coming to see that doctor. They're just going to see someone for their foot, and they will have a ready stream of patients. And you know, when they do something wrong, and they do a lot, by the way, guess what? The government's going to foot the bill, pay the indemnity, pay the compensation. The NHS doctor doesn't have to worry about anything. They've got a job for life. Now, you tell me, who's going to work harder to please their patient?
Yeah. It's crazy. My mum was a theatre nurse, so she used to come home. She was like really, really diligent, completely sort of sold on the system. She used to work in special care baby unit, and then subsequently as a theatre nurse. I think she actually started as a theatre nurse, and then special care, and then theatre nurse. And she used to come home and tell me stories about, because I think she was a cross section, so orthopedics. So maybe similar stuff to what you were doing. And she used to come home and tell me stories about some of the stuff that went on. And it's just like, it's frightening. But at the same time, a valuable asset. She had some real fire in her. And she made a name for herself. If you needed some surgery. So my brother broke his knee skiing. And she knew exactly which surgeon to see.
Yeah.
And so she was like a fixer for the family and for friends and family. But obviously we had that, her friends and family had the added bonus of having this lady on the inside, essentially. But yeah, for Johnny on the street, who's just completely in the hands of the NHS, they'll get anybody, and they won't be able to do much about it, even if this person, isn't really up to it.
It's all about who you know and personal contacts. So 100%. And the thing is, I'll tell you another inside trade secret. Surgeons practice surgical techniques on their NHS patients. And then once they find it, honed it in, then do it in the private sector. And so every new operation has a significant learning curve.
Yeah.
Seriously. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean that, the curve that goes up, learning. It means that at the bottom part, at the early part, in the first 6 months to a year, in the first 50 operations or thereabouts, there's a much higher complication rate and failure rate.
But if you think about it, is there another way of doing that? Like anything, like say in the world I work in, when you start to encounter uncharted territory, you are a novice in that world, essentially. So you need to explore that space.
No, what I would say is it's about honesty and integrity and probity. So you tell the patient,
right, okay,
I've never done this operation before.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing something new. Are you happy with that? Or do you want me to do what I've done historically? But while the new operation might be better, hopefully,
it's a risk benefit thing.
There's a risk benefit. That conversation I don't think happens. I've never seen it happen.
Yeah.
And over my years of training and seeing my senior consultants, and that they don't talk about that kind of stuff. They just sign you up and you just go in for your operation. So what I'm trying to say is, the NHS historically has been used as a test bed, and patients are as guinea pigs. And it even is to this day. Big pharma loves it, and it's a gravy train. We talked about this, on one of our phone call conversations, where public services and public jobs and public contracts, whether it's HS2 or infrastructure or NHS, it's about extracting wealth from us, the taxpayer, and funneling it to corporations. And there's so much corruption, backhand deals, and it's not just envelopes packed with money. I mean, that's like Nigeria and Pakistan. This is a lot more sophisticated. You get contracts, you get positions on a board, a directorship, upward promotions. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. And then you get to a position where it's money's the root of all evil, essentially. And it's, people can be, here's an interesting, we'll just hold that for a second and pick up back up what you said about Big Pharma. And I'll come into a little bit of a tangent, because that could come up later. My grandmother just died. She was 100,
Wow.
so she was born in 1924. And she was really on the ball up until sort of the last. I mean, she went downhill at Christmas time essentially, but she was very intellectually with it, and you could sort of have a really good conversation. She wasn't sort of suffering from any degeneration of her neurological function. And so I used to be able to ask her stories about what her father did and what her grandfather did. And her grandfather, so that would be my great-great-grandfather, he wrote a book called The Art of Prescribing. And this was in 1902. So he was a physician, and that's what he called. He lived on Upper Berkeley Street in London. Very wealthy family. They would have had servants. She lived a very sort of privileged lifestyle as a consequence of her grandfather and her father. And I was reading. You can download his book actually. The original. Someone scanned it in.
Send me a link. Send me a link.
Yeah. You can look through, and it lists sort of all human diseases. And one caught my eye as like rheumatism, treatment for rheumatism, and it uses really sort of semi-pseudo Latin medical terms. So I had to Google everything. Basically, before you take this treatment, do a purge of mercury. And it's like, you know, this guy wasn't like eating babies and sort of, you know, thinking, oh, I'm gonna sort of torture people by feeding them mercury, which we now think's like ridiculous. He would have just been doing the best he could at the time. Do you know what I mean? It's just
absolutely.
There was no malevolence in him, but I think it's great that I could hear from my grandmother firsthand, essentially, from her what he was like. You know, she would tell me stories. She would be put on the train down to London. She would go and stay with her grandparents. And he was a very sort of Victorian era sort of chap. I think he used to make carpets. And so he had a carpet room, literally where surgery was downstairs in the house, where he's pumping mercury into people or whatever. And then upstairs he was making carpets. And, you know, just a man of his era, essentially.
Mate, I talk about all of this with Roman Bristianic in my podcast with him, and, you know, the author of Dissolving Illusions, and, you know, what medics have done historically through the ages is just horrific. You know, arsenic, mercury, bloodletting, you know, I mean, and it goes on trepanning and, you know, lobotomies. I mean, like, dude, the medics
But at the time, doing the best, just trying to do the best job.
I know, but what it shows is, if we look back in time, how wrong medics have been, and how their hubris and arrogance has made them quite stupid when you look at in hindsight. You know, we look back and we go, oh my God, what stupid thing, putting heavy metals that are toxic into. How can you rationalize that? How is that scientifically sensible, right? But if we can do that historically, I would say you need to have the humility to say, what are we doing today? That in the future, people will be thinking the same thing. And what I look back at my medical school training, and I've spoken to so many doctors, hundreds, and they all mirror what I've gone through, whether it's in this country or abroad. No one really gets taught about medical historical mistakes and, you know, things like the mercury and the arsenic. I didn't know about this until just a few years ago. You know, and no one in med school said, by the way, guys, everybody tone it down on your confidence and thinking you're the best, because guess what? Historically, we've done some seriously dumb shit, like blah, 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 blah. And if we've done dumb shit in the past and we thought we were doing a great job at the time and literally awarding ourselves for doing this crazy shit, what are we doing today? Everybody just think this is why we need to have a critical mind and question everything. I never had that lecture once. And can you imagine if that's how they were teaching doctors today? How different our world would be in?
And I would say, though, yes, for the medics, but also for the engineers. I mean, I could tell some stories that would make you just wince with.
Well, tell me.
So, I mean, to help you sort of get a picture for how these sort of. So, my background's technology development. So, I've worked for the machine for 15 to 20 years, designing a sort of a raft of technology across all sorts of industries, subsea vehicles, medical devices, optical technology, sensors, cinematography cameras.
Okay, Richard, how old are you?
39.
So I need to be honest. Listeners, this is the first time I've actually physically seen Richard. I've always spoken to him on the phone. And it just goes to show you can't gauge an age over the phone. So when I used to speak to you, you sounded so wise, and I thought like you were in your 50s. I thought you were in your 50s. And then when I just popped up the camera, I was like, bloody hell, you look young. Yeah. And you are 39, you little baby. What a wise head and a 39-year-old shoulders. And just the listeners also need to know, this is the Richard who rang me up and said, I want to help you. What do you need in your office? And you supplied a chap to come down and help fix my camera. Isn't it a good thing we didn't buy new cameras? Remember I said to you, I don't want to waste your money. Yeah. And dude, the guy fixed my camera. Thank you so much for that. And then you got my tripods. God bless you, Richard.
Yeah. Well, the secret to youth.
Anyway, carry on.
I asked my grandma the secret to longevity. One little ritual she used to do every evening, I'm not sure when it started, but I mean, as long as I've known her, she would eat 2 tangerines, but she would suck the juice out of each and discard it was a bit of a disgusting thing to watch her do it. On the occasion that I went round late at night and watched her do this, but no, I didn't go round to watch her do this, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She would suck the orange out of each pig or whatever you want to call it and then discard it. So she was essentially, juice fasting.
Hey, let's go back to technology.
So you've got to understand the mentality of the individuals, because at the end of the day, nothing happens in this material world without people like me, probably not like me, people that are solving problems. And we can define problem as, we can come back to that because that's an interesting word in itself. But just like everybody, I was a product of the sausage factory. I went through just like everyone else. I mean, I was fairly privileged, not actually because of my, we can come back to some of my other family's exploits, but I guess my parents, my mum was a nurse, my father was a carpenter. They're not, but they sort of worked hard to educate me and privately, and so I was pretty privileged, I guess. But I still came out, went through the system, university, went through the system, work, carrot and stick the whole way. Got to make money, got to get a good job, just like everyone else. And then out into this world of research and development. And one of my first roles was in a consultancy in the Cambridge Science Park, working for essentially a technology sweatshop. And there's loads of them around down there. And you can imagine, and this will be similar to if you worked for an organisation, say British Aerospace or Lockheed Martin or MBDA, Design Missile Systems. They're full of young, enthusiastic engineers who want to solve problems. And they come in and you put on a project team, and they'll organise a team, and there'll be hardware engineers, mechanical, electrical, software, firmware, maybe some physicists, maybe some analysts if you need some real structural or computational fluid dynamics undertaking. So you build up a team, all these people, and then you essentially introduce the project, given a brief, and then the ball's rolling, and you go through a design process. And okay, there's maybe an opportunity for a couple of days or a week where you understand they say, well, let's introduce a project. So you were, going along in your life, getting up in the morning and having your breakfast maybe and brushing your teeth and all the rest of it. And then suddenly you've just been ambushed with a new problem, essentially. It's like you didn't have this problem yesterday morning, but this morning, this is now a new problem. And so, you're getting paid, you've got to deliver solutions. So you're beetling along solving problems. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, this is a bit questionable. Some of these projects are a bit, does it sit well with me, like morally, or how do I feel?
Like what? Can you go into a bit more details? Because I'm struggling to understand.
A project I got very briefly involved in, and I actually didn't know at the time what it was. You just need to look up something called stratospheric platforms. It's essentially a hydrogen-fueled, high-altitude 5G antenna. So it's like and I couldn't comment. I mean, obviously there's a lot of press about 5G, and we all know that the body is a sack of water essentially. If you look at molecular weight, people say 70%, but actually if you look, because water molecules are so small, we're mainly water. But I couldn't comment either way. If you spoke to the project team, they'd be like, it's a brilliant idea.
No, hold on one sec. Go into more details. What do you mean stratospheric?
So the
hold on one second. I'm just going to stop for a sec from your speaker. Sometimes if there's a bit of a lag, it does that. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, it's much better now. I don't understand. What does stratospheric platform mean?
Yeah, it's just the name of the company. Just look it up. Basically, I mean, this is just one of many defense companies that, or it's defense company involvement. But, there's a team of engineers somewhere working on an autonomous vehicle, hydrogen powered, that is carrying a 5G antenna. It's basically a death ray. It's not even that funny, I suppose. But you've got to ask yourself, we've got to the point in this.
Hold on one second. The Stratomast high altitude platform will be certified from the outset for safe operations in civil airspace. Will have endurance for over a week on station due to its lightweight structure and huge power source. Designed to be strong enough to fly through the turbulent lower altitudes to reach the more benign environment of the stratosphere where it will hold station. Design life of over 10 years. Use of automation. So it's like a drone. Hydrogen power system. Communicates LTE 5G. One phase array. Delivers hundreds of beams onto the ground, each equivalent to a cell created by traditional terrestrial mass. Okay, hold on one second. So how is this defense? Like, isn't this just communications?
The companies involved initially were like Thales, Northrop Grumman, Rolls-Royce. So the technology required to implement something like that is obviously inherently well understood by the defense companies. I'm not saying that it's got defense applications, probably, but
everything's dual purpose, isn't it? It's always like military first, and then they get civilian things that they can get out of it.
Yeah. So, but I suppose the point I'm making is that your man on the street, you're sort of, as Godfrey Bloom would say, your man on the Clapham Only bus. They're just doing the day job essentially. And it's whether there's any malevolence on a project like that, much higher up, I don't know. But I can give you more examples. I mean,
give me more.
Yeah. So, do you remember during the COVID time, there was this huge push for ventilators?
Yeah.
There was like this. So, almost every. So, there were many very large consultancies that received millions of pounds of taxpayers' money to develop ventilators. And so they were going through first principles developments of ventilators, even though essentially, let's pretend you even needed a ventilator. I mean, I think the sort of consensus is that's just the worst thing you can do, regardless of the condition of someone. I'm not a medical expert, so I don't know, but they could have quite easily gone to a company that made ventilators and published the designs. You know, if we were really in like a crisis and we suddenly needed to sort of make something happen, the designs for ventilators were there, and all that it needed to do was to make them in larger volumes. But instead, there was huge amounts of taxpayers' money wasted on paying design consultancies to go through another very fast first principles.
Why do you think that was? Was that just incompetence or cronyism, feeding money to like their pals?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it was feeding money to pals, because consultancies I know, I don't know of any links between them and politicians.
Do you not think it also comes down to the problem with government is they take your money. A lot of the people who are in government, these politicians who are corrupt, a lot of them haven't done any job, any real life job in the world. They've not been a businessman. They've not been an entrepreneur. They've done, I mean, nowadays, the modern generation of politicians have, you know, they've come out of university and have got basically degrees in just garbage. They work as consultants. Yeah, exactly. They work as consultants or advisors or speech writers, you know, whatever, in the political party, climb the greasy pole, and suddenly they're a politician and they're making decisions, world-changing, life-changing decisions with actually no real world experience. It's kind of crazy. So I think they're smart in a politically savvy animal kind of way, but they're not wise, they're not experienced, and they're not really intelligent. You know, they're not really. So it's a bad mixture, because now they're taking money that they've never really earned or worked hard for, and then they dish it out.
Just wasting it.
And it's
without
waste.
Understanding what they're doing, essentially.
Because there's no accountability. There's no accountability.
Yeah. If they, maybe they've got to be seen to be doing something. It's just like, there's a crisis, we've got to do something. Is it just like a marketing thing, like a PR? You know, oh yeah, we're doing the best we can. You know, oh crikey, there's a ventilator shortage. How are we going to solve it? Oh, let's design some new ones. We've got some great teams of development engineers scattered all over the place. Let's give them all pull them all together and turn it. It was literally turned into like it was made equivalent to sort of the Apollo rescue sort of mission. You know, that was the dynamic and the feeling that they were trying to instill in these companies. That they were, you know. So I don't know where that came from.
So I mean, there's a similar kind of like structure in the NHS. You have all this management layers and layers and layers of management, and I had first-hand experience of that as a consultant and when I was head of the department, and I found that a lot of managers were just busy worrying about optics.
Yeah.
Did it look like they were working and doing something?
Yeah, were they justifying their position, essentially? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So meetings to discuss future meetings, to discuss flow charts and flow plans, and, you know, drag things out when just get the shit done. Like really just get the shit. And I would take a business plan and I would explain everything and the upfront money costs and how within a year you would have regained that and more, cut down waiting lists, made the system more efficient, more patient friendly. And it was all packaged and good to go. And it was just like, it was like, they can't do that. They could handle that. Like, no. It was the art of dragging things out.
Yeah.
And embellishing things.
Yeah.
You know?
You imagine if you cut all of that waste out. It's the same with councils.
I want to go back to technology, but I want to quickly mention something else. So there was a poll, and it was asking like which party is the best one to look after the NHS. and reform came out front. And I'll tell you something. So I'm actually not a fan of a public centralized healthcare system like the NHS. I used to think it was, but I've realized that it just gets corrupted and captured, and that centralized corruption affects hundreds of thousands of doctors and millions of patients. And it's not good. It's not good. And it's very wasteful. I think the alternative is what we had before, which is decentralized private institutions. And when I say private, people need to understand, I mean like non-profit. I mean like charitable, run by your community, your local town, your local hospital, region. So you have hospitals that are run for the local people, for their local needs, because problems down in Cornwall might be very different from up in Fife. You can't standardize care for different population groups in different places. It doesn't. So you have regional hospitals, mostly charitable, non-profit, private. You have to pay a fee, but it's not exorbitant. It's not like you're paying shareholders, and it's run and very efficiently.
And NHS salaries and
So and if you don't perform well, you don't have a job for life. You're accountable. You are accountable. That's the model that I would like. The problem is that people like Reform say they want to help the NHS, or Conservatives and Labour, they don't. They want to make it really wasteful and inefficient. They don't care about the bloated budget because it's actually feeding all their crony donors, party donors. It's feeding all the staff who are, then lower down, who will vote a certain party because all the money is coming from the government. They're beholden to the government. They worship the government. And if they will privatize it, which they have been, it will be to big mega corporations, global corporations. It will help the insurance companies who basically take away the relationship between the doctor and the patient. They dictate terms to the patient, who you can see, which hospital you can go to, how many tests you can get. They dictate to the doctor how much you can charge, how long you have to see the patient for, what treatments you can offer. Do you see how the insurance companies are really malignant force here? Then you have, the big hospitals, groups that are basically just there to make the money and don't give a shit. Then you've got basically big pharma who wants to make money from selling drugs that don't work or are poisonous. So if you really want true private healthcare, it has to be a certain type. But the problem is these politicians, they don't want the model that I've just described. They want the one that feeds big pharma, insurance companies, and big hospital groups. Because sooner or later, the revolving doors, trust me, they will be directors on the board, getting handsome salaries. And this is what I mean. Like we get this Overton window. Well, do you want public healthcare or do you want this rapacious capitalist private healthcare? And it's like, maybe I don't want either. Like maybe there's a third way that you haven't given that option of. And I just wanted to make that point.
I think it's up to the individual to take responsibility for their own, health. I mean, obviously, there's trauma or abnormalities that occur that are out of the control of that individual. Essentially, that's a difficult story. But there's a huge amount of disease and suffering that is a result of addiction and trauma, and essentially the inputs that are going into the human are over long periods of time, like death by 1,000 cuts, making a meal, essentially. And you see this everywhere. I mean, it's prolific and getting more so. And that's another area that has taken my interest, in terms of, you always ask at the end of your guests, what would you say on your deathbed, etc. And it's, for me, it's very sort of, I've heard other people say this, but know thyself. You can take that in many different ways, but I think if people were less focused on the outside world initially, or certainly started to reflect on themselves, and it's difficult because you're a product of your upbringing, you're a product of your environment, you're a product of things that are potentially out of your influence for many years.
Yeah.
But, you know, by working through these things and taking ownership of the body, and I can tie this back to technology because I've worked on many developments, but there isn't anything as clever as the human machine, and we will never, ever beat God's handiwork, essentially. You know, the human body. I found this fascinating website. I'm just going to remind myself what it was called. It's a free website which anyone can look at, and it's basically an American website with a history of anatomy from sort of the 11th, 13th century to 18th century, where they were still drawing historical anatomies on the web. If anyone Googles that, it's absolutely unbelievable. Especially, there's a few artists around the 1800s, 1850s, and you just have to look at like a cross section or like a dissection up through the neck and the head, or the sort of the chest cavity. And if you start to explore the functionality of the human body, it then becomes a mockery when you
Is this the one?
Yeah, amazing resource. That is an incredible resource. Go down. So on the left-hand side, look for. Keep going down. Stop. Just let them. The thumbnails will load. Just go up.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow. This one?
The Wilhelm at the. Yeah. Or either of those two.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is why I was in awe of anatomy. That was my favorite subject, by the way. Just look at the side of the knee and the foot. I mean, look how detailed and intricate.
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? But I mean, not only I always say to my children, it causes a lot of. My 5-year-old just shakes her head and she's like, "Oh, Daddy, just be quiet." I'll say, "What if we are carbon-based robots?" She's just like, "Oh, shut up." But I mean,
look at this.
Look
at this.
Yeah.
I mean, look, just think about creating this life form, this baby within you.
Yeah. So we're a robot that can make another robot, or you know, if you were to characterize it as that.
But I think that's a great way of looking at it. Aren't we just robots? I mean, because the thing is, I think we're eternal spiritual beings, but we're living in this meat suit.
But the meat suit is essentially getting abused, isn't it? Because you imagine, I mean, it's all in my mind. You know, I see like the cross section of your human body and then like pouring in a pint of Guinness, and it's just like it'd be the equivalent of going up. The best we can think of it is probably going up to, you know, a Bugatti Veyron and pouring in half a bag of sugar into the fuel tank or something. And it's when you start to reflect on the beauty of and the elegance of the engineering of the human body, and then you start to look at what rubbish is going through the garbage compactor, it's no surprise that people are getting ill. I suppose you then start to question, why is that occurring? And often it is because there's traumas and it's a means of dealing with life, essentially, coping with life. It's a coping strategy.
100%. I'm smiling because I don't know if you've heard my analogy. I've said this. I said, you know, I used to say this to my patients. I'd be like, what's the most valuable thing you possess? And, you know, guys are typical guys. Be like, oh, because I work and live in a very affluent area. Be like, oh, it's my Porsche, whatever, or my Audi or whatever, my Mercedes. And women would be like my handbag or my shoes. And I'd be like, and to the guys, I'd be like, right, so you think that car is like the most valuable thing you possess and the most amazing thing, right? Yeah, beautiful car. I was like, you know, if you put orange juice in the fuel tank, what will happen? Like, it won't run, you'll break my car. I mean, what about milk? Are you kidding me? I was like, so this 80,000, 100,000 pound car isn't intelligent enough. Like, if you put the wrong thing in, it will just break the car. Like, how fragile is that car? That engineering that it can't even. I said, then think about your human body. I would argue that's the most valuable thing you possess. You know, and what do you put in that fuel tank? And how do you abuse it? Do you service your car? Do you service your body like your car? Do you maintain your body like your car? Do you polish and clean it like your car? And I said, and you know what the funny thing is? You can't trade it in for another car. You can't trade in your body for another body. This is it. So the most valuable thing that you possess is your body.
Yeah.
And next time, think carefully about what you put in your mouth and how you treat it.
Or what you listen to, or what you look at. It's incredible.
Can we go back to technology for a minute? Give me other examples of, like, another thing that I don't really appreciate is, like, we get told we don't make anything in this country. We're just consumers. It's all service industry. Like, do we actually make technology? Do we have, like, a big, massive...
It depends at what point you draw the line. Essentially, the raw materials aren't coming out of this country. You know, we do have some blast furnaces, and we are making, you know, raw materials like product, but the actual mining isn't really occurring in this country, is it? So it depends where you draw the line.
So are we more like design, innovation, and then the actual fabrication and manufacturing is done out somewhere else where it's cheaper?
There are a lot of. I mean, I've got bits all over my office that have been made in the UK, and so there's plenty of industry for machining, you know, machining stuff, all the different processes for making stuff, and there's assembly. So yeah. There is manufacturing in this country, and people are starting to realise. So I work with supply chains across the UK, but I've got stuff made in China before as well. And the interesting thing about the China situation is, yes, it's obviously cheaper. I mean, it's literally, I've had prototypes made recently, and it's a third of the cost. And so you struggle to justify to the client not making it in China. Obviously, the downsides are the communication barrier, the lead times. If there's a problem, certainly at prototype stage, you know, you can't just ring up and go, I'm just going to pop down and can you rework this part because they're in China. So, but you can see stuff starting to reshore again onto this country, and robotics is certainly helping. I mean, that is one area where robotics is helping. But it's a tricky situation. So obviously labour's really cheap out in China. And so the only way UK companies can do it is you've got a large suite of machines, very few staff, and then you've got robots loading and unloading machines. But then, I mean, what are all of the people that you've just displaced by the robots? What are they up to? So there's this really strange balance of the way we can compete with Asia is by integrating automation, but essentially we're then displacing work for other people. But then you could argue, well, who wants to work in an assembly hall designing or putting together, you know, a vacuum cleaner? Just let the robots do it. It's okay, but what are you going to do? So this really strange system. But yeah, we are making stuff in this country.
Okay, so give me examples of other technology, which is like, what the heck?
So yeah, I mean, I've worked on another piece that I can imagine going potentially sort of, it could be used for malevolent purposes, is a quantum methane detector. So it's an optical device that allows you to see methane and carbon dioxide, essentially. So whereas if you just shined a camera outside, you wouldn't see clouds of methane and carbon dioxide. This enables you to. But you can imagine, you know, the global warming cartel, you know, it could be used against people, couldn't it? You know, if you looked at a field of cows and went, there's methane all over the place, you know, or you could imagine using it to detect, okay, the rationale is that it's being used for leaks on oil rigs and stuff like that to look for leaks, but you know, it's just another sensor that picks up a particular gas that could be used for malevolent. when you're at the first principles development, you don't know what these technologies will then go on to be used for. You're just undertaking work that at the time may still remain benign, but has the potential to be used against.
Any other examples?
I mean, I've worked on plenty of questionable medical devices. I mean, as I said, apart from trauma, I believe that I don't know whether my opinion would change, but I don't believe that we require any intervention. Nobody's ever got ill from not having enough radiation in them. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I've worked on devices that require injecting radioactive material into people, but I'm not saying that will then go on to be used for something malevolent. That stops at that application, essentially. But like all these things, you know, you could make analogues to my great grandfather who was advocating putting mercury in people. I mean, I've worked on projects where people are advocating putting radioactive lead essentially into people. Now, is that the best way to cure prostate cancer? I suspect not. But, you know, like all of the chemotherapy type practices, it is pretty questionable.
Yeah, it is pretty questionable.
But give it to a team of engineers as a problem, and they'll solve the problem for you, because that's the brief, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say to you is every technology could theoretically be used for good or bad. Yeah. I mean, let's just take a bullet round.
Yeah.
You know, some kid could go into a school and shoot up lots of other kids. Is it the bullet round that's evil and bad, or is it the person that was pulling the trigger?
Yeah, exactly.
You can also take that bullet round and go hunting.
Yeah.
You could also protect yourself from a mountain lion that's about to attack you, or a bear.
Yeah.
You know, it could be saving your life.
Yeah.
But it's just a bullet round. The bullet round's not good or bad.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's what you do with it. And it's the same for all technology, whether it be a mobile phone. I mean, mobile phones, I mean, you've had plenty of guests and you know yourself that smartphone technology is, I mean, it's certainly in my view, it can be fantastic. I mean, it can allow communication, it can allow navigation, but at the same time, it's like, well, a black mirror, isn't it? It's just absorbing people. It's just distracting people from the world around them, and just sucking the life out of people, essentially. Certainly the younger generation, but huge amounts of time's wasted just scrolling through. You know, I was at a soft play with it was poor weather last weekend with my phones rolled, just watching the people around me just sat staring at their smartphones. So that's a position where do you pin it on Samsung or Apple or whoever? Did their engineers get up and think, we're going to sap the energy out of the whole population, so we're going to develop this, you know, black mirror device? You know, no, they didn't. It's down to the individuals that are using it to police how they use it, how it's introduced to their children, what they let their children use it for. And that's the same across all technologies.
I think there is a little bit of malevolence in the sense that, let's swing over to food.
Yeah.
So, for example, Chicken McNuggets. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They get food and processed food and they make it hyper palatable. There are food technicians that tinker with chemicals that they know will trigger the brain and make you want to eat more of it. And I've looked into this, and they're billion-dollar companies, and it's kind of crazy because they've used fetal tissue and fetal cell lines to create the chemicals that will make you want to eat more of a substance. I mean, how sick and bizarre is that? I mean, honestly, Richard, when you hear this, you kind of think, what? So they're experimenting on aborted babies and using the chemicals that they've extracted from these babies
and feed back to the population,
and then feed back to the population so that you eat the junk food. I mean, it literally is dystopian as fuck. And then basically, you know, even though you've got this disgusting, I don't know if it's pink slime or not, chicken McNugget processed, you know, fried up, people want to eat it because it's super tasty. And I tell my kids, junk food is really tasty. You will want to eat it. I mean, I've got to the point where actually my brain now is so deprogrammed from it. I actually think it's disgusting. I don't think it's tasty at all. But for most people, they find it really tasty and they want to eat it. And even if you tell them this is poison and crap, they're addicted to it because it's been designed to make it like so.
Yeah.
And I think the same can be with technology. People will say, they'll be saying, right, look, so our social media apps, right, we need people to be on these and using them, and the more screen time and the more time they're logged on to the app, the better. We want them using the app all the time. We want them on it for at least 3 hours. How do we do it? Let's get behavioral psychologists and scientists. Why don't we do a little ding button and reward them and give them a like? That'll give them a dopamine hit. They'll get lots of dopamine hits. They want more dopamine hits. And if then they don't have it, they go into a refractory period and then they'll be depressed. So they'll be stimulated to use it more. Why don't we change the interface? And they're designing it so that not to make people into zombies, but to use the app as much as possible and to get people addicted to it and to use it. But the end product is you have a society where no one's talking to each other. Children's brains aren't developing. They're staying in a reptilian state. They've got no frontal cortex ability. Everyone's in instant gratification mode. No one has the capacity to think bigger and see the bigger picture because they're all just ding, ding, ding. So it's not, I'm not saying it was directly malevolent, but there was a malevolence behind it. There was an agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, but not at the level, not at the development level, not at the engineering, not the guys and girls who are just, you know, making the technology happen. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I think I've overcome my phone addiction, which I had years ago, because I'm too busy producing content. I'm not consuming content. It is a double-edged sword. I love it because I can get my voice out to lots of people, whether it's on X or Instagram. I can engage with my listeners. I can post content. And I think, if I look, 99% of the time I'm actually just posting, and 1% I'm consuming. I don't go on X to look at what other people are saying or doing. I don't go on Instagram. And initially I was like, maybe that's very egotistical. It's kind of rude. You don't follow very many people. You don't look at it. And I was like, actually, because I don't want to. I've not got the time. I'm too busy. And I think, and I also see the lack of engagement, whether it's other adults or other children. They don't talk to each other. They're all just stuck on their phones. And it does make me sad. I just think, where's this going?
Sad, and especially when you've got children thinking, okay, I can shelter my children from these things, or I can help regulate their exposure to technology. But essentially, they're going to be interacting with a mass of people that haven't been sheltered from. And so you've got this really tricky situation where you're trying to prepare. You've seen the sausage factory, you've been through it, you've acknowledged that that's what you've come through. Now you've got 3, I've got 2. I'm now trying to prepare them for a world which is mainly going to still be producing sausages, and but I still want them to fit in. And like Bob Moran, alluded to, I don't want to move them to a desert island and set up a little commune and build massive fences and keep all that technology away. So it's a question of trying to wake people up by whatever means possible to see that all of this technology, if you allow it to sort of degenerate you essentially over time, that's maybe not in your, it's not going to work to your advantage. Certainly not to your children or grandchildren's advantage. I mean, my gran, I said, was 1924. You know, they barely had cars then. Telegrams, letters, postal service, and she died at the point where ChatGPT could, write your A-level homework or whatever, and we can talk to people across the other side of the world and look at all the military technology we've got. And that's 100 years. This is, one lady. So now, imagine if we continued up at that rate.
Yeah.
What things would look like in another 100 years. It makes a complete. It's sort of. I struggle. There's the education system's another complete sort of rabbit hole, isn't it? You had David Edelman who strongly sort of vocalizes these points, but the question you've got to ask yourself is, well, if you reject AI, and I'm sort of I'm not a big fan of that, because it takes the creativity away from the individual. Then it's still going to be deployed by vast numbers of people. You're not going to stop everybody using it. I work on projects where clients have sent me emails saying, "Oh, I asked ChatGPT this and gave me the spit out of ChatGPT." It's just like, okay. But how can you run an education system where they're just teaching kids facts, essentially, and they're just regurgitating these facts? Your kids will come home and you go, "What did you do today, kids?" "Oh, we learned about the planets." "Okay, what can you tell me about the planets?" "Oh, this one called Saturn." "Oh, good. Can we live in Saturn?" "Nope." "Okay." So you've just learned one meaningless fact then, essentially, that might actually be true or false. I'm not sure. But with the advent of AI, that's going to be inconsequential. Humans aren't going to be able to make a career out of regurgitating facts, because there's going to be computers that can do it significantly quicker. Okay, it takes a lot of energy resource to run AI. You've got huge data centers. And so how do you prepare your children for that? For that sort of future where they're going through an education system that's becoming more and more irrelevant, when you consider the fact that there's technology like AI, without looking like a nutcase. It's a nut. But nobody's talking about this. Everybody's just like, "Oh yeah, ChatGPT is great. Yeah, all this technology is fantastic." It's like, you do realise that when your children say, "Oh, Mummy, I want to be an accountant," it's like, what are you bringing to the table? You can just deal with numbers. Johnny the computer can do it 1,000 times quicker than you.
So going back a bit, I had this same conversation with my kids, and it's so funny when you're saying that. I was telling them, prepare to be a little bit lonely when you grow up.
Yeah.
You'll be surrounded by lots of people, but they will be very different from you, and you will think very differently from them. You will see the big picture, and they will not.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be addicted. They'll be addicted to alcohol or drugs or vapes.
Yeah.
They'll be addicted to cocaine. They'll be addicted to their social media and their profiles. They'll be deeply insecure. They'll be shallow. They will not be able to think deep philosophical thoughts or see the bigger picture. And you will have to swim amongst them. And if you're not careful, they will think of you as a shark and be scared of you.
Yes.
And in some respects, you're going to have to tone it down a bit so that you blend in, so that you fit in and they don't get fearful of you. But you need to understand you're going to be very different from all of them.
Resilient.
And I said, but don't be scared. Don't be scared of this, because also you're going to do really well in this world.
Yeah.
Because you will know so much more than them, and you'll be able to navigate. And I think that's what we have to teach our kids. And that's why I'm not fearful of the future, because in the world where, everyone is blind, even the one-eyed is the king. And
Yeah.
in this world of the future generation where these kids are all vaxxed up to the hill, are all on the autistic spectrum, where they are addicted to their devices, where they're all going on their dopamine hits and eating carbohydrates and crashing, their sugar levels are crashing and then going up again. And they're addicted and they don't have a vocabulary. And guess what? Our freedom-loving children are going to be the rulers. Like they're going to, and I don't mean this like in a bad way. I mean like they're going to be able to shape the future of humanity. Like, so right now it might all be rubbish, but this is why we need to invest in our children. So they're the ones that get into positions of power and influence and then retake the reins of control and make a better future. That's why spending time with our children and talking to them and investing time with them is actually one of the best ways that we fight back against the enemy and all the evil that we're seeing in this world. It's our children. They're the future.
Yeah, so, navigating the world of deception and evil.
Yeah.
Which essentially we live in. But, it is.
And I've said to them, it's also going to be hard for them to find someone to love.
Yeah, I've said that to them as well. Yeah.
Oh, have you?
yeah. I've said exactly these things. It's like you're going to struggle to find. Yeah, you're going to have to work harder. Yeah. But I mean,
it might just be your family and my family and our kids.
Yeah. Maybe we're just in a little echo chamber talking to ourselves. I mean, I normally have this quote sat pinned to my wall behind me. But can I just read it quickly?
Please.
It says, it is from a book. I can give you a link to the book. I've not actually read the book. I just actually Googled where it came from so I could reference it. But it says, resiliency comes from a discovered self, not a constructed self. It comes from the gradual emergence of your unique inborn abilities in a process called individuation. The better you become, the more unique you become as an individual, and it never ends. If your identity is based mostly on external factors, you will feel anxious about change that threatens your identity sources. You will try to keep the world around you frozen in place. If your identity is based on your personal qualities, abilities, and values, you can let parts of the world dissolve away without feeling threats to your existence. With a strong inner sense of who you are, you can easily adapt to and thrive in new environments. I have that.
I love it.
And I don't look at it every day, but I remind myself fairly regularly that it's essentially, ourselves. It's not to rely on technology and external factors. They're tools, and it comes back to the know thyself. You have to build up these attributes, such as resiliency, because the world that's coming down the pipes is going to take that to survive, I think.
100%. It's fine. I've looked back at history now and I realized that there's been really bad times throughout history. And right now it seems like things are really bad, but you know what? The sun's out, there's blue sky.
Exactly.
I can't see any chemtrail. Let's go back. Imagine you and I were in the fields of Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge.
Yeah.
In the killing fields and the skulls piled up. Can you imagine how dystopian and horrible that world would have seemed, end times? Literally, hills of skulls, because of that barbarity. Imagine you went back to China, you're in the midst of the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
Children are beating up the teachers and killing them and humiliating the elders. Imagine the 80 million people starving because of stupid agricultural policies. Think of the Holodomor. And literally 40 million people dying just because they've got no food. I mean, can you imagine how evil and terrible the world would have felt at that time? And then you just think, right now, do you know what? We've actually got it quite good.
Yeah, we've got to be pretty grateful for what we've got. Yeah, we're very lucky.
Yeah, so, and I mean, even contemporary, I mean, you could say, imagine you're in Palestine right now. Imagine you're in Gaza. Imagine you're in the West Bank where there's no Hamas, but the Israeli forces come in the middle of the night and lock you up into one room and then use your house as a sniper outfit. And, and that's what they do. They traumatize you. They stick guns at your head. Imagine the 40, 50,000 Palestinians who are dead now. Imagine the tens of thousands of Palestinian children who are amputees. Imagine living in that world and thinking, what the So, and now look back to where we are right now. The sun is out. We've got food, we've got a TV, we've got a home, a roof over our head. Yeah, we've got shitty politicians and vaccines, but actually it's not that bad, is it?
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
We're pretty privileged. Yeah. We're very privileged. Yeah.
So that's what I do. I just hold on to, and don't get me wrong, I have bad days where I just feel a bit down, but it actually mirrors the weather. Like when it's grey and the clouds are down and oppressive, oh God, I feel like shit.
Yeah,
but, days like today when the sun's out and the blue
we've
sky.
got blue skies up here in the north.
Yeah. I'm like, woohoo, everything's good.
Yeah.
And then we just have to keep investing in our children. I think, you make a really good point. I've told my kids, look, you can get a dumb phone by the time you're 13, just a keypad one.
Yeah.
But you're not getting a smartphone until you're 16, 17. And I talk to them every day.
I've taken a retrograde step. I've got only a dumb phone now. I've got rid of my smartphone.
Maybe I need to do that.
But do you know what? It makes it, you're back in the old days. So if I've got to go somewhere, I have to start printing out maps and pieces of paper and stuff. It's quite fun. It's quite fun. And you've got to ask people. So you get somewhere, you haven't got your GPS, you haven't got your smartphone, you've got a map, you've had to now detour off your little A4 paper map that you printed out, especially showing your route, and then you've fouled up, and now you've got to start just asking people. But that's how it used to be, wasn't it?
Maybe I need to do that. God, you really are wise, Richard. 10 years younger than me and so wise. One of the annoying thing is that the apps, they need for banking and everything. They designed it. They're funneling you towards it. Like constantly.
I still use the old pin-centric things. You can still get away with that. You can still get away without using banking apps and stuff. It does make life a little bit less.
There's a company called Above Phone, and I've got an Above Phone. It's just come through the post, and I'm gonna use the Above Phone and see. So it's de-Googled. It's privacy phone, and it's no one's tracking you. Yeah. And I just want to see, like, that was my way of dealing with it, like to start, not using Google or anything that they can track. And I'm going to see whether I like it or not before, because the other option was doing what you've just done. But we'll see. And the thing is, you can create different profiles. So if I want to use apps like, Instagram and X, I can do it on one profile, but then I can swap back into the totally private mode the rest of the time, where there's nothing, there's no apps, and it's just literally the phone. So I'm going to try that. That's going to be an experiment. Let's see what happens. But I think I'm on top of, like, I definitely don't have an addiction to my devices.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need. I don't have Facebook. I don't have TikTok. I post and that's it. I create content. I don't really consume it.
The one reason I got rid of mine was just because I found myself, using it around the children, and I just didn't want them seeing me with my head in my phone, essentially. I mean, with having come off it, it's ubiquitous now. You just see everybody, just heads down. And it's sad to see young kids, just sat down in the park, the side of the road, just engrossed, not even communicating with each other.
No.
It is.
And it's at restaurants, couples just both on their phone.
I tell you what's even worse: a restaurant, a couple, and then a kid, a baby, or a very young toddler with headphones and like an iPad, so the parents can sort of get time away, and then the child's hypnotized essentially. Yeah. I mean, if you just, it's crazy.
This YouTube this mum was telling me, she stopped her daughter because her daughter was watching something on her iPad, which was on YouTube, of a child playing. So her daughter is just watching a child play.
Oh my gosh.
And the mum was like, what are you doing? Why don't you play? Why are you watching another kid play? Like, what's going on? And she was just like zoned out. Or I think there's another one where kids watch other kids playing computer games.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy.
Have you heard about different types of fun? Type 1 fun, type 2 fun, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that. Yeah.
I think that's what's really important. And I've talked to my kids about this, and I said, look, type 1 fun, you're just consuming, but it will not make you happy.
Yeah.
You just need more of it. You'll feel down and flat. If you really want to be happy, type 2 fun.
Yeah.
And they're quite good at
some
that.
Discomfort, but taking children out of their comfort zone isn't something that's as prevalent now, is it?
No, it's not. Anyway,
and
Richard,
not least because of the sort of health and safety and all of the that comes with that. Protecting the children essentially.
Richard, you also give me hope. I've looked at my stats, and about 50% of people are Generation X. You're a millennial.
Am I a millennial?
Yeah, you're 39.
So.
I know you want to be Generation X, but you're not. You're a millennial. And that gives me hope that there's people like you, young people like you, who think like you, and that's
how many? What's your listenership at that
age? Your age?
Yeah, my age. What?
About 20%.
And younger than me?
Oh, like 5%.
Oh, right. Okay, really?
So like under 30, it's like 5%.
Really? Right. Okay.
Yeah, and this older. So the biggest catch is like between 40 and 60.
Right.
And then between about 20 and 30 and 60 upwards is equal. Yeah. And then like under 30, it's like 5%. Not very much.
Right. Okay.
And maybe if I went on TikTok, I don't want to go on TikTok. I don't want to go on TikTok. I mean, the thing is, because I'm a one-man band, it's quite time-consuming. Like when I wrap up with you, I'm going to be publishing my podcast, right? Writing up my Substack, and I've got literally 45 minutes now to do that. Because at 11 o'clock, I've got Debbie Evans coming on, but it's not a podcast. What I'm doing is, she was forced out of UK Column, she was told to leave UK Column. So I'm going to be helping her set up her Substack. So we're doing a Zoom, and I'm going to be talking her through how to set up, behind the settings. Yeah. And then I'm going to record a small podcast with her, and she'll use that to publish her own podcast. So I'm going to teach her how to do a podcast, and it's basically just to get her on her feet, basically.
Yeah, to get her up and running.
Because she's a good egg, and we need as many independent voices out there as possible. Yes. I don't know about you, but I'm a believer in win-win. Like I don't want to hoard everything, and it's all about me, and I'm not going to share my knowledge, and that's quite a prevalent mindset, which I don't think is healthy. I think it's good to share and actually just, you shouldn't be scared of competition. Actually, competition is really good for you. I found that in the medical world, like doctors were very scared of appointing other doctors who were good, because they thought, well, that will undermine me and
and I might lose out on business or whatnot.
Yeah, be a threat to me, be a threat to my private practice. And actually, the doctors who appointed really good doctors, all it does is raise the bar for everyone. Yeah. And then you create a center of excellence, and then more people want to come to you because everyone's brilliant there. And that's, I think, just more. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the majority of people think like that. Majority of people think I have to win at your expense.
Probably for fear, or from they're concerned that they'll undermine their situation or position, I suppose.
Yeah. And that's insecurity. And the reality is, I don't think like that, because I think I'm pretty damn good, and I'm not going to be scared of someone else coming along. And if someone else good comes along, well, that's fine. I'm going to push it up a gear.
Exactly. Yeah. Was a right lift all about. Yeah. Time.
Yeah. Anyway, I know you kind of answered the question, but let's just do it again.
Yeah.
You're on your deathbed. Before you pass on and meet your maker, what are you going to say to your loved ones around you?
So, question everything, believe no one, and set about your life exploring who it is you truly are, what it is you're truly capable of, because you'll be suppressed as you go through the system, and you're capable of much more than you know. And by ruling out, I suppose you find the truth by ruling out the falsities. Essentially, you won't suddenly wake up and go, "That's the truth," but by working through and exploring what isn't true is how you sort of develop and hone your own interpretation of the truth, essentially, which you'll feel. You'll know when you'll have a feeling that is hard to articulate when you know something is true. Pursuit of truth. Yeah.
Beautiful. Richard, I love speaking to my supporters. I honestly think sometimes you guys are the best guests.
Yeah.
You've been a great guest today.
We didn't even touch on my crazy story, which
well, actually, let's stay for that one then, because I was going to ask you something. You said something about Bob Moran yesterday, which I thought was hilarious. Did you enjoy that podcast?
Yeah, I've got Bob's book. I love his. I just love the way that he reflects with sort of satire his view of the world and his sort of creativity. It is something that I'm starting to get into, but from a more physical. I mean, he's watercolor or colors on paper. I'm 3D geometry, and so my world is geometric, and I'm essentially honing geometry. I've got a number of projects where I'm looking to do a similar thing to Bob, but in my own sort of way. So I resonate with him really well. Yeah.
I thought it was really funny when you said, "I just want to be friends with him."
Yeah. There's a line out of is it Notting Hill? I can't remember what it is now. I don't want to butcher it, but yeah, I can imagine being good friends with Bob. So if you're listening, Bob, please reach out to me. To my story. So this ties in maybe with your little foray into psychedelics, but not. So I've never done psychedelics. This is a completely left field story. I've got a twin brother. That's another thing on the deathbed. If you could have a twin, everyone should want a twin. It's just the best thing. I mean, there's not much you can do about it if you're already born, but when we were 16, we used to go to a music course with my father, and it was a course for like undergraduates in the Lake District. And we were in a hotel one night. Oh no, it was a holiday cottage, twin room. We were 16, laid down in bed, separate beds, turned the lights off, just laid there, and we weren't on drugs, nothing like that. Yeah, we just literally come into the house, and we started to see things floating around the room. I mean, you could call them ghosts or figures or whatnot, but we could both describe seeing these entities around the room. And you can imagine we were absolutely beside ourselves, absolutely fouling ourselves. It was just the most surreal, it's like nothing we've witnessed before. But we were incredibly fearful. And the entities you could tell the way that they were behaving. I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but I swear this is just exactly what happened. The entities almost preyed on our fear. As soon as it's almost like we'd interrupted them and they didn't see that we could see them. And then when they realized that we could acknowledge their presence, they were sort of on us. It was like they were coming through us. So we were beside ourselves, turn the light back on, sorry. So there was light in the room, couldn't see them. And recovered, turned the light back off. And they came back again.
Oh, shit. What did they look like?
So they were I mean, we could recognize them as human forms. So between us, we could describe one of them that was like wearing like a dinner jacket or something, it looked like he was conducting, or it was difficult to say, but they had very human sort of forms. But from that point onwards, we turned the light. They disappeared. That was the second time, and then they didn't come back again. But there's only two conclusions you can draw from that. Well, the first one being either we were just we were somehow communicating between myself and my twin brother, and we were able to somehow share a vision that you might see if you're on psychedelics. I mean, I've heard people say they've been on a psychedelic trip before, and multiple people have been able to witness the same thing. Or we were witnessing somehow some entities, but it's always made that experience from that point onwards has made me and him question. You never look at the world the same thing after that. It's the sort of thing that just replays in your head all the time. The spiritual entities of some sort, or I wouldn't even call them spiritual entities. So, ghosts, if you want, or
did they feed? Did they feed on your fear? Do you think?
Yeah. It's almost like yeah. It was very strange.
Dude, if I had heard this from anyone else, I'd be like, what the fuck? But Mr. Rational Engineer.
That's why I thought I'd leave it to the end, because I just thought if I just open with that.
Dude, I have an open mind to anything and everything.
Yeah.
I don't doubt for a second that is what you experienced, and what it is, God knows.
The world is not as we seem. The world is not as what it seems.
Did you hear
not at face value what it seems?
No. Did you hear the podcast with Tim Manger, Beat the Reset?
Yes. Yeah.
What was that one like?
Wild. That was pretty wild. Yeah. There was some stuff on there that I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I couldn't dispute it either way. I don't have evidence to say yay or nay, but that's quite wild.
This is what I mean. I was listening to that and going, what? But who knows?
Yeah.
We don't really know anything, do we?
No, we don't know anything. That's why I question everything. Yeah,
I question everything. And God knows about these spirits, and God knows what aliens in our life and what this world
whether
is.
we're just like in Plato's cave, with just the shadows on the wall, distracted. Maybe it's all inside, and we're just in this huge sort of realm of distraction.
And my kids are really into Greek mythology, and I read to them. My youngest, the two older ones, read themselves Percy Jackson ones. I don't know if you've seen. They're great books, and they're talking about the gods and everything. I just wonder, like, is any of that the spirit realms and the ghosts and and do we go through reincarnation? Do we die and then do we get a choice to come back? And these entities, were these the souls that have come back that never made it through? And do you know what I mean? It's like, and do these evil entities possess people?
Yeah.
I talked to Meredith Miller. I don't know if you heard that podcast, and she talked about this person being possessed.
Yeah.
And she could see the evil possessing him.
Yeah.
And you just wonder whether this narcissistic behavior, these psychopaths,
isn't actually as a result of that.
Some kind of possession, some kind of demonic possession.
Yeah.
It's crazy, dude. It's wild.
It's wild, isn't it? It's wild.
Wild. Anyway, listen, I've really enjoyed chatting to you, Richard. I really have. Can I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
Can you come down my neck of the wood one day?
Yeah, I was actually thinking...
And do a podcast with me in person. I think that'd be nice.
Yeah, no, I'd love to come down to it. Yeah.
I mean that.
Because you've started a bit of shooting, haven't you? A bit of shock. Have you got a shotgun license yet?
Not yet.
Are you working on it?
Yeah, I'm going to get my full license pretty soon. There was a shoot that I was meant to go to last week, but it was cancelled because of the bad weather. But once I go there, I'm going to get my full membership. I'm just to sign it off because I've done what I need to. I've done my probationary period now. I just need a signing off, and then as soon as I've signed it off, I can then apply. I'm not in any rush. to get any, guns or anything. I mean, I go shooting. The club has got guns.
Yeah.
I just think it's great fun. It's practical shooting. And one of the good things about becoming a member is I can also then take my own guests,
Right.
which will be quite nice.
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's like targets and then timed, with .22s and with a shotgun. And then you have long shoot days with larger caliber rifles and stuff, which you go to Bisley. So that's not that far from me. That's like 40 minutes.
Right.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
I like it. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I just do clay pigeon shooting, shotgun shooting.
I'm not very good at clay pigeon shooting. I always over or under, and the problem is you never really know quite where.
It's a total guess. No, it's not. If you know what you're doing, it's not.
I know, but I like hitting the targets and they go bing bing.
That's another weird thing, isn't it? Actually shooting on driven shoots. I mean, I've seen because I'm up in North Yorkshire. I've been on driven shoots and loaded for people and witnessed it.
What's driven shoots?
Where you're on a big pheasant or partridge day and they've got, they've put 20,000 birds down and you've got a team of guns that's going round and they're flushing the birds off a hill so that, the guns can shoot them and kill the pheasant.
Wow. What's that like?
It's crazy. It's bizarre. It's a really weird concept. It's just, I mean,
20,000. I don't know it's that many.
Yeah, so like on an estate shoot, they'll be putting tens of thousands of birds down. I mean, the government's clamping down on it like everything, but
and do they eat the pheasants?
No, on a corporate shoot, often they're burying them.
That's
I mean, it's
awful.
big money on a day shoot. It's thousands and thousands of pounds.
How much do you have to pay to go on this corporate type shoot?
I mean, it's like hundreds to maybe low thousand, depends. And if you go up on the grouse moors, then you're shooting grouse, which they're not putting grouse down. They're a naturally, they have the grouse go through a mating cycle, and so you're not putting young chicks down. That's even more expensive. That's thousands and thousands of pounds a day.
I find that very uncomfortable. I don't like that. I like the idea of shooting something to eat it.
Yeah.
And not wasting anything.
Yeah, just for the fun of it. Yeah. Often they're absolutely hammered as well, drunk and whatnot.
Are you kidding?
No. One of my instructor loads for he goes and chaperones. It's like wealthy businessmen that are coming over.
And have they got any experience of shooting at all?
Often not. No.
Oh,
it's pretty wild. Yeah. Which seems like a waste of money because trying to shoot a grouse, I've never tried it, but I mean they're fast.
Any accidents?
Well, because on a grouse moor, you've got circular butts, circular dry stone walls essentially, and there's nothing you can swing through and shoot behind as well. So they put flags up to control the arc of fire. But I've heard stories of people shooting down the line and not killing people, but like getting a face full of shot.
Yeah, I mean, if it's birdshot, I mean it's small, but still, buckshot is lethal. Buckshot is like 9mm, and the energy behind the buckshot is massive. It's more than
just a solid slug, essentially.
No, it's like with 9mm balls. Like
okay, yeah.
So like when it goes from birdshot to buckshot, it's like it packs a massive punch. You do not want to take that. But on these shoots, it'll be birdshot.
Yeah.
But still, oh my god!
Yeah, the concept of great game shooting is really strange.
Can I be honest? I'm not that kind of person. Listen, I'm not.
No,
I'm not a tweed wearing. Oh, hello. How are you doing? Let's go for a shoot. Oh, I'm not a golfer kind of guy. I just found that a lot of people who play golf are wankers. Sorry for anyone who listens to golf. I'm sure there's some that are really nice, but I'm in my world of surgery and. I mean, the guys that not for me. I'm sure there's some really nice people, but the kind of people that I was hanging around that played golf, no, not my type, and not the tweed type. No, I like the practical shooting because they're just normal people, normal. Just
there are no. I mean, when you go to like a clay ground, it's not all tweeds and Labradors and whatnot.
Do you want to hear something really funny? So shout out to this guy called Nick. I love him and his brother. They invited me to shoot clay pigeon shooting.
Mm.
I said, sure, let's go down. And I've never met them before. They're my supporters, and I thought it'd be nice to just get away and do a guy thing. So I meet up with them, and then we drive down to the shoot, their range club. And as I'm walking from the car to the clubhouse, I'm like, that's a Masonic symbol. And they were like, yeah, it's a Masonic clubhouse. I went, are you kidding me?
Of the clubhouse door?
Yeah.
Or, really?
But it's a Masonic club, gun club. I was like, are you... What? Is this some kind of trick? And they're like, yeah, like we're the only awake people here. Just like don't talk about anything. Like,
But they do not have to be a Mason to join the club then?
They don't have to be a Mason to join the club.
Okay.
But like they encourage it.
That's bizarre, isn't it? Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Right.
But can I just tell you something? While we're here, listen, I quite enjoy. Can you tell I enjoy talking to you?
Yeah, because we've been going for like an hour and a half now.
Right. All right. I just want to show you something.
Minutes, so
Listen, I'm just going to show you something. You're going to love this. Tell me what you think of this. Right? Because it's about your mate, Bob. Right? He's your mate, isn't he? So I said yesterday, check out my fantastic conversation with Bob, right? And you know, and I normally just do that, right? And I retweeted some things like David Miller. And as I was posting this, you know, sometimes, you know, when you come out, it's the notification. So I got this notification and it just caught my eye. So I have to go in here to find it, right? So here's a comment. Rustler. I like you, Doc. I admire Bob's artwork, yet this troubles me, right? And he's taking this screenshot, 311, and he goes this, right? And and then he goes, and this guy censors it. He goes, the fact he has fingers. He goes, how else would he paint? The fact all the frames available in the video, the still used in the video thumbnail is of Bob making the 666 hand gesture. Maybe it's coincidence, but maybe I no longer believe in coincidences. And I'm like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Are you, like, seriously? And then look, I said, mate, no. Bob uses his hands a lot when he's talking. We spoke for 2 hours and 40 minutes. He is not Masonic and is the real deal, a good guy. I was following this anti-Freemason account. I was, by the way, until one day I saw that the guy was posting clips saying that I was a Freemason. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? He was like, look, Doc's posted 3-minute 33-second clip or 1 minute 33 seconds. See, he's like a Mason. And then he goes 2 hours, 40 minutes of footage. And this is the still used for the thumbnail. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But like I said, maybe I don't believe in coincidences anymore. If I see it, I say it, and I make no apologies for that. Have a great day, Doc. And I had to respond. I said, mate, I made the clips. I didn't look at the times. There's no way he would have seen it. Either he is in on it, I am, we both are, or this is just random shit. Please don't read too much into this and judge people by their deeds and actions.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it's just, I just thought I'd share that with you because, like, oh, dude, it's such a funny world, isn't it?
I wish you told me before that, because I would have started doing stuff, you know, whatever, covering one eye or,
Don't do that. Don't do that.
And looking at the time as well and timing it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That in itself, that in itself is a challenge.
Oh, God. All right, mate, I really need to go. Right,
Yeah,
listen, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.